What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be alive? I want you to carefully think about the difference between human and robot. Is it the physical body? Perhaps the voice, if it even has one, or possibly both. If someone can sound human, does that make them human? Could they just be a robot? Does it even matter to you? SOMA is a game about the terrifying horrors of transhumanism, existentialism, in a wondrous attempt to answer what it means to be human. Reality is that which, when you stop believing in it, doesn't go away. Philip K. Dick. This is an essay on SOMA in the dehumanization of mind uploading. SOMA begins with this intriguing quote, a great foreshadowing of the events alluring within the game. SOMA is truly a nihilistic game, with a bleak and depressing interpretation of reality that you as a player can do nothing about. Developed by fictional games, the dilemmas within SOMA introduces players to the themes of consciousness, identity, and nature of existence. Through its intricate narrative and gameplay mechanics, players are confronted by profound philosophical questions, including the classical thought experiment, Ship of Theseus. This philosophical paradox raises questions about identity and time, posing a scenario where every original component of a ship is replaced over time. Not only the planks, but each nail and beam is gradually changed, which raises the question, at what point does the ship completely deviate from the original ship of Theseus? To relate this question back to SOMA, we must understand what identity means within SOMA, and include a broader context of the game. SOMA players begin by assuming the role of Simon Jared.
Hello?
Exists at a secret underwater research facility called Pathos-II. Through a series of events, Simon ultimately uncovers the truth. Simon is not within his original body. Instead, his consciousness had been artificially uploaded into a robotic suit. This parallel between Simon and the Ship of Theseus metaphor raises concerns about Simon's identity, whether Simon remains his original essence. SOMA challenges players to grapple with the idea that identity is not entirely related to a physical form, but rather emerges from a collection of experiences. In the article, Transfer of Personality to a Synthetic Human, Bamford and Danaher discuss the fundamental constructions of identity. They argue personal identity is a social construct, and the person is a conceptualization that a human forms regarding either itself or another human, which is linked to memories of that particular human, and that any concepts held regarding the particular person are also defined by their peer perceptions and together with memories which relate to that person. So essentially, the person's identity is majorly influenced by the people around them. In their argument for how personal identity can become socially constructed, Bamford explores an analogy using the Dalai Lama, specifically the mechanisms of reincarnation in the Buddhist culture. In the Tibetan tradition, the Dalai Lama is a toku, a human vessel that sustains a certain lineage identity. However, for Dalai Lama reincarnation to be recognized, it must be deemed to be the Bodhisattva of compassion. Once a new toku is officially recognized, they are trained to maintain important traditions and teachings. Ultimately, by this method, their identity as a toku is reinforced and sustained. Bamford continues by saying that this methodology provides an interesting case study that involves the transfer of personality by highlighting the importance of social construction to the transference of personal identity. The Dalai Lama identity is socially constructed as each one claims to share a lineage, due to social events and practices that have caused him to have certain beliefs, going as far as sharing memories, accepting truths about his narrative, and to permanently reconceptualize their relationship to the world accordingly. This illustration of the Dalai Lama identity is also subjected to his social role, which must be also fulfilled. Spiritual rights as well as responsibilities of previous reincarnations, all of which are ultimately the consequence of a network of collective beliefs. Ultimately, this analogy doesn't negate the numerous conditions that may contribute to identity. However, it emphasizes here that the social setting may construct a new substrate to adhere to previous identities. The additional implication is that identity isn't fixed, but constantly revolving based on environmental factors. As for the relationship with Soma, through the storyline, Simon discovers more of the world he was forced into. He learns that an asteroid had catastrophically impacted Earth, and that the world above the research facility is entirely engulfed in flames.
The sky is pitch black with smoke. The ocean is dark. Incredibly dark. In the distance, I can see land. According to navigation, it's Lisbon, the coast of Portugal. Any signs of life? Over. It's on fire. Everything is on fire. The flames, they're reaching all the way into the sky. It's unreal. Any signs of life? Over. No. Nothing but a massive firestorm covering the continent. Attention crew, this is your captain speaking. The final efforts to stop the comet have officially failed. Impact is imminent. Carrie is safe while submerged. The crew, what's left of it, is still okay. For the rest of the world, there's no good way to describe it. The destruction is absolute. The surface is just gone.
As he continues his horrifying journey, Simon is tasked with launching the Ark into outer space. The Ark is the last-ditch effort made by humans to preserve themselves out of despair. Its objective was to create artificial copies of humans, utilizing brain scans, and finally sending these humans into a simulated paradise on a computer into outer space. While on this journey, Simon is unaccompanied, leaving him with no social pressure to identify with his memories. However, he is accepting the reality brought upon him and fixated on saving humanity. This separates Simon from his original self. The synthetic version of Simon understands his duty to preserve the Ark, hence allowing his identity in this context to be determined by the outside factors. Simon's experience with identity is parallel to the Dalai Lama analogy. The context provides the social construct within which Simon must operate. His identity is also continuously evolving. In the Stanford Encyclopedia, they quote, "Can we explain how to make something conscious out of things that are not conscious?" This is a quote that relates directly to Soma, and specifically the robots that have uploaded brain scans of humans. To continue, Stanford describes self-consciousness as not only aware, but also aware that they are aware. In Soma, this version of consciousness can be seen as Simon travels through Pathos-II. Robots that are implanted with a brain scan wonder yet, strangely enough, seem unaware of their physical transformation.
I'm sorry, I think I pulled the wrong lever.
Oh, don't sweat it. Just get me a doctor.
Won't a mechanic make more sense?
You trying to be fucking funny? Give me a medic.
But you're a robot!
Really? The robots have legs, hands, a face. You're delusional.
Okay, calm down. I won't...
Get some fucking help! Please tell Amy. I need help.
Simon interacts with many of these robots, discovering that the original human copy ended their lives as they believe by ending their lives immediately after a brain scan, consciousness and sense of continuation will arise. Yet being that the robots seem so unaware of their self, it may serve to view consciousness in an alternative sense, a perspective of sentience. And defined by Stanford, it's being capable of sensing and responding to its world, and ignorant to the self. These robots and Simon's interaction with them dehumanize and blur the lines between what is consciousness. The ethical quandary facing Soma is brilliantly communicated through the artificial creation of these entities, simply by transforming humans like Simon and reducing humans like Simon's into data, transferring their bodies into robotic shells and then infinitely replicating them so long as the necessity or resources remain. When so many versions of one person is equally conscious and alive, the value of each ultimately deteriorates as no distinctiveness separates each of the entities. This dehumanization of consciousness raises complex dilemmas about the sanctity of consciousness and highlights the moral ambiguity of treating sentient beings as disposable entities. SOMA forces players to grapple with this by tasking them with life-altering decisions that may affect the digital entities Simon encounters. Often throughout the game, players are in a situation in which there are no right or wrong answers, simultaneously forcing the players to wrestle with their morality. Whether it is to perpetuate the suffering of these robotic individuals or to terminate simulations, the players are then met with the ramifications of their choices. To further explore consciousness, which is central to the plot of SOMA, within the context of Simon's encounter with beings scattered throughout, more elaboration on consciousness need to be provided, and this is still using the Stanford philosophy. This includes the addition of wakefulness, which is another exploration or another sense of consciousness. In SOMA, the robots may have the capacity for consciousness. However, there are numerous examples of robots that aren't always awake or alert in the immediate environment. The robots may not seem to be are seen to be on standby waiting for activation, or simply dormant, which raises the question of what is consciousness at this point. Are the robots still conscious, just in a different form, or does consciousness not only resume as they are reactivated? In the case of self-consciousness, Simon struggled with self-identity in his robotic body and the realization that he is merely a copy of himself. One may wonder about his level of self-awareness. Is Simon fully conscious of and accepting of his new identity, or is his understanding of existence the same as before? SOMA challenges the player again to grapple with whether consciousness is exclusive to humans or may manifest in alternative ways. These highlight just what SOMA is trying to accomplish, to expose the audience to a world where consciousness isn't exclusive to a physical human body. SOMA also explores the continuation of consciousness. One saying that exemplifies this is Simon's interaction with himself. As he was under the presumption that he would be transplanted from one body into another, he awakes to the realization that he simply created a new Simon, where consciousness continued while his previous body sleeps unknowingly. Simon is confronted with the dilemma of if he should allow himself to suffer. The player can also ultimately choose to kill Simon, as the idea of Simon waking up in the middle of nowhere would be a terrifying reality to wake up to. Yet this shows the ethical conundrums that plague this game. How would Simon, who was left behind, feel? And the absolute dehumanization of that Simon is immediate upon the successful creation of the new body, of the new Simon. Even as the players, we feel conflicted but somewhat disconnected from the previous Simon we were just playing as. This is because we see from the perspective of the new one. But what makes one more credible than the other? The answer is neither. Neither is more or less credible. They're replications of each other, and because of the dehumanization, we prioritize the one carrying the narrative, since we simply will now associate the previous Simon as the old one.
What's gonna happen to him?
He'll sleep for a while, a few days.
And then what? Wake up in this fucking nightmare again? All alone? So cruel.
Well, what do you want me to do with him? Make friends? Let him know that we have to leave him behind when we go into the abyss?
What if he didn't need to wake up?
You'd do that?
I don't know. Maybe.
There. I set it up for you. Hit the switch if you want to drain his battery. He'll die within a minute. I'd rather not stay plugged in any longer.
As the story of SOMA continues, Simon is confronted by a devastating decision that fully encapsulates the theme of the game. After narrowly escaping the abominations of Pathos-II, Simon must determine what the fate of humanity is with the digital copies inside the Ark. As Simon reaches the pivotal moment where the option to launch the Ark is given, Simon or the players are given two distinct but equally horrifying questions. either to launch the Ark into space, ensuring digital survival, or you can refuse and effectively end all digital copies of human consciousness. If the player were to choose to launch the Ark, it would be a symbolic willingness to preserve humanity even in a new form. It reflects the game's theme of technological advancement as a means to ensure the survival of the human race, even at the cost of physical bodies. That consciousness can exist in alternate forms. On the other hand, if the player wishes to reject, it would mean a significant emphasis on the sanctity of a human life, showing a reluctance to accept anything deviated from the physical world, and serve as a statement against the dangers of advanced technology. Finally, to conclude this video, I'd like to visit an article by David Smith in Guido that explores artificial consciousness, which has relations to SOMA. Quote, an artificial consciousness possessing human-like phenomenological models will have the potential to suffer as a result of poor or malicious design. Thus, it would be immoral to create an artificial consciousness. And worse, our copy-paste technologies will allow unlimited multiplication of suffering artificial patients. In SOMA, we see both of these examples. The suffering of the robots that are made to be occupied by human consciousness, and Simon being a replication of replications, most notably the very first brain scan. Previous scans of Simon may include suffering inconceivable to us or just unrevealed to the audience, yet we as the audience may still wonder. Compared to our world, SOMA's dramatized version of artificial intelligence consciousness isn't entirely disconnected from our reality, as studies have shown that simple social cues already strongly affect our views of robots. For example, people refuse to turn off a small humanoid robot when it is begging for its life. SOMA serves as a potential future of what artificial consciousness can become, and we must ask ourselves, taken from Smith, is building conscious robots that undergo pain and suffering ethical itself?
They're out there, among the stars.
In the beginning, I mentioned a quote. Reality is that which when you stop believing it doesn't go away.
Then why are we still here?
It truly encapsulates SOMA's brilliant attempt of presenting the nature of reality, including the existential questions. In essence, it means to serve as an alarm that reality isn't what it always seems, and that to truly understand you must grapple with the complexities of existence, even when confronted by our own beliefs. This is central to SOMA, which continues to invite players to question reality. What is consciousness in the human condition?
These are up there. Catherine and Simon are both safe on the Ark. Be happy for them.
Are you crazy? We're gonna die down here with those fuckers living at large on a spaceship. They're not us. They're not us.
I'm sorry you feel that way, Simon. I'm proud of what we did. We made sure that something of the hundreds of thousands of years of human history survives, that something lives on.
No. Fuck this. Fuck this. Fuck you. Fuck you, Catherine. You lied. And I believed in you. I trusted you. You said we're getting on the fucking Ark.
We are on the Ark, you idiot! I didn't lie. I can't be responsible for your goddamn ignorance.
Fuck! Catherine? Please don't leave me alone. Catherine? Catherine?